Hey, welcome back for another episode of Porn Rewire with me, Dr. Trish Leigh, back in my office. Still got a couple kinks to work out, but very exciting. You can check out the video on YouTube if you're listening to this on a streaming platform. Today, we are going to talk about erectile dysfunction, and I'm going to frame it for you as arousal dysfunction in the brain. And it's not because I have to frame it differently than it is. I have to help you understand that erectile dysfunction is a brain problem. It's not a problem with your man parts. So I need you to understand that so that you can figure out where the problem lies. That way we can get to the solution together. So you know how I feel about this. I'm here presenting all of these ideas to you because I want you to understand the underlying cause of the issues that you have. I want you and me to work together so that we can back out this silent tsunami of porn and hypersexuality and how it's creating this ripple effect that's impacting relationships and families and people across the world. That is my goal here today. So I want you to understand that erectile dysfunction is an arousal dysfunction in your brain. Hopefully by the end of this episode, you will be able to see that very clearly. So we're going to start with number one. What is the problem? Number two, I'm going to very clearly and specifically tell you how that is happening in your brain and how from your brain that is cascading through neurotransmitters, hormones, cellular excitation, down to your man parts for sexual arousal. We're talking arousal dysfunction in general, which leads to sexual arousal dysfunction. Hopefully you'll be able to clearly see that. And then once you know where the problem lies, you know where the solution lies. Very exciting. So in number three, I'm going to give you the solution. And of course, if you stay with me until the end, I'm going to give you your brain hack strategy for the day so that you can start backing yourself out of erectile dysfunction this very moment. So stay with me until the end of this episode. Okay, now I'm extra excited about this episode because I've made a plan moving into the fall to be able to offer 4 different themes for the 4 months that are left on the end of this year. So in September, we're going to be discussing healthy sexuality. And as part of September, I have been working on an erectile dysfunction, arousal dysfunction in the brain program. I've been researching it for months, and hopefully tomorrow is the day that I get it recorded if none of my beautiful teenage children need me, which hopefully they won't, because I want to get into the studio here and get recording so that I can offer you that program in September. In October, we're going to be talking about porn-induced ADHD, PI, ADHD. In November, we're going to go No Porn November again, of course, so I can help you get that momentum going towards moving into holiday time and New Year's so that next year can be your best year ever. Of course, in December, we're also going to talk about holidays without porn, and then we're going to propel you into the new year, new brain. So stay with me on this podcast and dive into my videos on YouTube. I'm going to have some exciting extra playlists there with those themes for you. So dive into Dr. Trish Leigh, Porn Brain Rewire on YouTube so that you can join me for all that content. Okay, moving along. Let's dig into erectile dysfunction. Wow, I got marbles in the mouth today. I better slow down. I'm going to slow her down so that we can get through this very clearly. There we go. Okay, so arousal dysfunction in the brain that creates erectile dysfunction. Let's dig in. So the problem when it comes to erectile dysfunction is desensitization in the reward center and the reward pathways in the brain, primarily in the midbrain. Then the pathways extend to the frontal lobe. This is the problem, desensitization. I am referring to this desensitization as sexual donuts. And I'm going to show you how in just a second. Sexual donuts is from my new erectile dysfunction program. And if you just think about it this way, if you've ever done donuts in your car, and actually my bestie's son, he's part of a car club. I'm sure it's an illegal car club because scanners for the popo are involved. And if you're a police officer, I mean, no disrespect, they use scanners to see if the police are coming, and they do donuts in parking lots and things like that. He was telling me about this car club culture. I'm like, that's kind of cool, but at the same time slightly terrifying. Some people rent cars and rent U-Hauls and things like that because they don't want to trash their tires, which leads me to the sexual donuts. They don't want to trash their tires. So we know if you take your car and you pump the brakes while accelerating and you spin around and around and around, yes, that's going to be highly stimulating, but it's going to trash the engine, and it's especially going to wear down the tread of those tires. It's going to trash your tires and your engine. So we're going to think about those D2 receptors in your brain as the tires and the tread being worn down. So this is important because when you get new tires, it has nice thick tread on it so that it's easy for you to drive around town. But if you do donuts and you wear that tread down, not only does it become more dangerous because your tires won't grip to the road anymore and you could get in an accident when it rains, it's also trashing the engine, the main brain area, the whole main brain. It's trashing that engine because you are gassing and braking at the same time. Well, guess what? Porn does the same thing in your brain. You've probably heard me talk about it here before when I talk about the pendulum brain that is created by going back into the screen. And basically, the more you go into the screen, it's creating gassing and braking in your brain. Every time you go back into the screen, it's also wearing down that tread of the dopamine receptors in the midbrain. And what that's doing is it's making it so you need more dopamine to feel the same as you did before with less stimulation. So let's come away from the sexual donut analogy. Hopefully you get what I'm talking about. And let's talk about number 2, what's actually happening in your brain. So when you hit the easy button and you go into the screen and up pops a scenario of varying intensity, but it might have started at lower levels of intensity, and then with tolerance and escalation, it may have increased to higher levels of intensity so that you can feel good. And then now you're consuming pornography, and most likely you've coupled that with masturbation for high levels of physical stimulation on top of the high levels of mental stimulation. And that mental stimulation is auditory, it's visual, it's tactile. When you couple it with masturbation, you are giving your brain a supernormal stimulus of porn and masturbation. What that does is it's wearing down the tread of the tires in your brain. So they are no longer able to feel the same way. Now, what that does is it is simultaneously creating the pendulum brain that swings back and forth between fast and slow energy. Now, if you're struggling with erectile dysfunction, at a certain point, that pendulum can't swing anymore. And what happens is the brain gets stuck in neutral. So if you've ever done donuts, and especially if you've done a lot of sexual donuts, what finally happens is there's no more tread on your tires and there's no more juice in your engine. And it's like your brain has shifted into neutral, something I call drained brain. Now that pendulum swings between extra fast and extra slow, and it'll swing back and forth as long as you're caught up in the 4D cycle of porn. That's dopamine drip, dopamine deluge. You get a flood of dopamine when you're in your porn session, Dopamine drowning, you're drowned out and you feel all numb and your brain feels good and you've escaped from reality. And then now it's time to go back to reality, but your brain is stuck in a dopamine deficit. That means your life is worse when you come out of porn. There is no dopamine in your world. Your brain has been coupled to the screen and masturbation to feel good. So you actually feel bad in your life, a dopamine deficit, 4D cycle of porn. So now your brain needs even more dopamine just to not feel bad in your life. And if you've hit this dopamine deficit phase and you get really stuck in it, that's neutral drain brain. And when your brain is drained, you are stuck in neutral. Now let's go back to the idea of erectile dysfunction as arousal dysfunction in the brain. Let's talk about pendulum brain, then drain brain, and we will compare and contrast it to optimal arousal. So pendulum brain, swinging back and forth between extra fast and extra slow. Extra fast is stressed out or wired. Extra slow is overwhelmed, fatigued, or tired. So if you're in pendulum brain, you feel wired and tired most of the time. That makes your brain want to go into the screen to stimulate and soothe and calm down your brain at the same time. You want to feel excited and aroused, but you also want to feel chill. That's what pendulum brain is, and that's what it does to you. Now, pendulum brain is not optimal arousal. It's wired and tired. If you're wired and tired, your baseline for being able to feel aroused sexually is changed. And I'm going to show you how in just a minute. But let's talk about drain brain. Drain brain is you're no longer swinging back and forth. Now you're stuck in neutral. Neutral means you're get up and go, got up and went. You feel unmotivated. You might feel truly depressed. You feel stuck. So if you're stuck in neutral, how can you possibly feel sexually aroused? You can barely feel healthy arousal in your life. So both of those patterns are dysregulated brain patterns. They're neurologically dysregulated. I can see them in the QEEG brain map that I offer. It's a service, a higher level service that I offer for people who want to see what their brain is doing. I can show you if you're stuck in pendulum brain. I can show you if you're stuck in drain brain. I can show you the magnitude to which you are stuck in either of those patterns. It's visible on a QEEG brain map. If you're interested in knowing how, go on over to drtrishleigh.com, check out the page under personal neurofeedback coaching that says QEEG brain map. Okay, but on that page also, it's contrasted and compared to optimal arousal. Optimal arousal I call the green zone because on the brain map, it looks all green. On the brain map heads, the brains that visually are represented, what happens is pendulum brain looks really red in the fast and the slow speeds. Drain brain looks really red in alpha medium speed. Optimal arousal or the optimal brain pattern is all green across all of the heads. So when you are in optimal arousal, it basically means you're able to move yourself through circadian rhythms across your days in your life. And what that looks and feels like is calm focus throughout the day. You feel a little stressed when something stressful happens, but you're able to bring yourself back. And at night, you're able to get into bed, and it takes around 20 minutes for a healthy brain to slow itself down and to engage the sleep cycle and to be able to stay asleep all night long. And then you start to wake up feeling groggy early in the morning, and then you start to feel more and more alert. Then you start to feel calm. You're having coffee. Now it's time to go to work and you feel calm and focused. That's optimal arousal. Basically, your brain's able to shift in and out of those speeds as necessary and as it's supposed to across the day. It's like an automatic transmission. Your brain in pendulum brain or drain brain is like a manual transmission that's stuck in a gear. That stuckness, that gear stuckness, is what I can see on the brain map. So going back to arousal, to be able to be sexually aroused, or optimally to be sexually aroused, your brain should be in the green zone or as close to it as possible. The further you are into pendulum brain or the further you are into drain brain, the more difficult it's going to be sexually aroused. And honestly, if you're stuck in drain brain, that's going to make it more difficult to be sexually aroused. Pendulum brain, you can kind of bring yourself back out of a bit. Drain brain, a brain can really get stuck in drain brain, and even though you haven't watched porn or masturbated in a year, you could still be stuck in neutral, because remember, you've done so many sexual donuts that you've basically worn down the tread in the dopamine receptors in your brain, and your engine is kind of fried and you're stuck in neutral. And you might have unwired the pattern that needs the high level of stimulation from all the dopamine from porn and masturbation, but you haven't healed that reward center and the frontal lobe and the reward pathways. So unwiring is not the same as rewiring. There's technology that can rewire your brain for you. You know how I know? Because I do it with people all day, every day, and it is so rewarding. Again, it is a top tier, high level service. You can check it out on drtrishleigh.com, personal neurofeedback coaching. You get to work with me personally. Once we know what your brain is doing, then we shift your brain out of the state that it's in into a more regulated neurological pattern, and it starts to come online. It starts to become rewired. In the erectile dysfunction program that I'm creating, I'm teaching you ways that you can do it yourself. I'm also gonna give you a couple here. Stay tuned for the brain hacks. And I'm also going to share with you exactly how this professional level neurofeedback coaching works, because it does work, but it's a little bit difficult to understand, and it can't be covered here in the podcast. I'd probably lose more people than I would help understand. So I have that program coming for you. But here's what I want you to know. You can either use 3 levels to be able to heal your brain from erectile dysfunction. Number 1 is the lowest level, entry level. And I like to think about this as the pyramid of possibilities. If you draw a pyramid and you cut it into 3 sections, the lowest section is the largest. And so it tends to be the most affordable, but it does take more time and energy. But at the entry level, you can use your mind and your body to rewire your brain. We know how powerful that is. And in the 90-day program I offer for porn recovery, it's filled with behavioral strategies to use your mind and your body to rewire your brain. So will this new erectile dysfunction program. So will 1 or 2 of them at the end of this podcast. But basically, that lowest level is entry level. You can use your mind and body. In the middle is mid-level. The mid-level strategy to be able to rewire your brain so you can heal from erectile dysfunction uses technology plus your mind and your body. And that peak performance top level that is more expensive, it's more of an investment, but there's less time and energy that you have to use. That's the high level service that I offer. It's professional neurofeedback coaching. It is all accessible at home. Everything I do is online. I work with people all over the world. And this way we're able to see exactly what your brain is doing. And I'm able to tell you exactly how to use your mind and body while we're using the highest level of technology. I'm going to explain it to you in a minute in the brain hack. But I want you to know there are 3 ways that you can address erectile dysfunction, because it is arousal dysfunction in your brain. Okay, so back to what's happening in your brain is that we know it's a dysregulated electrical energy pattern, and that changes the way that neurotransmitters cascade. It changes the way that the electrical impulses that travel down your spinal cord through your peripheral nerves to your penis to smooth muscle activation and cellular excitation, the literal cells that are being communicated from your brain down. This is a top-down approach, and it's true that your brain controls every impulse in your body. So if your brain is not working at healthy arousal patterns and levels, then the way that it falls out throughout your entire body is changed. So we know neurotransmitters don't cascade in the same way. Hormones don't cascade in the same way. The electrical impulses coming down, spinal cord to the peripheral nerves. So your smooth muscle activation so that you get an erection is decreased because of this dysfunction in your brain pattern. At the same time, the cells are not excitated at the same level that they would be if your brain was working with a healthy arousal pattern. This is all documented by science. So we know this. We know that this is what's happening. So let's go to number 3. Then what is the solution? Okay, back to number 1. If the problem is desensitization in the brain, then number 3, the solution is resensitization in the brain. So the beauty of your brain using neuroplasticity and Hebb's law that says that neurons that fire together wire together, neuroplasticity means your brain will change in the direction that you are pushing it. Neuroplasticity can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And if you've been going into the screen for porn and masturbation, it's unfortunately become your worst enemy. It's causing the erectile dysfunction that you struggle with. And this is how. Every time you hit the easy button and you get that flood of dopamine, you are desensitizing the reward center. And if you do it over and over and over, you're creating the proverbial downward spiral of erectile function by creating erectile dysfunction. So the solution is healthy erectile function and resensitization of the reward center, the reward pathways, and the frontal lobe. So very good question. I'm sure you're asking, how the hell do I resensitize the midbrain in my brain when I wasn't even sure I was desensitizing it? That's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked. This is how you do it. Number 1, this is the part you're not gonna like. Are you ready for it? You must stop desensitizing the reward center in your brain. This is the tricky part. This is why I made the Porn Brain Rewire program. Most people can't stop hitting the easy button because it's a dopamine dependency. It's truly addiction level. And I don't love using the word addiction, but I'm going to use the word dopamine dependency. Dependency. Your brain is dependent on the level of dopamine that you've been giving it. So you have to stop giving it that level of dopamine. We know that weaning off that level of dopamine by using porn is a slippery slope. And I cover that in my porn 90-day program, the link of which is on my website, drtrishleigh.com. But the idea is, like, if you're an alcoholic and you need alcohol to not feel bad in your life, and the reason you need it is because you have a dependency because of the dopamine deficit that it's created, it's very difficult to be able to wean off of alcohol and not keep going back to the level that your brain needs. I will tell you, I've developed a neurofeedback protocol, and it's very exciting to me. I am beginning to have a team of scientists. I'm reaching out to a colleague who is and has a team of scientists to see if he will study this parameter for me. But I've identified a series of neurofeedback protocols that can be used in concert to help you do just that, to give your brain the dopamine that it's looking for, and to wean your brain out of the state that it's in to need less and less dopamine. So that's going to be one of the benefits of having the highest level professional support in this resensitizing of the brain. But what needs to happen is you give your brain less dopamine while you're rewiring it to not need that level of dopamine. So, in the classic cold turkey fashion, you identify all these sexual areas in your life that are unhealthy, and I'm gonna help you do that in just 1 second. That's our brain hack for the day. You identify those sexual acting out behaviors and you stop doing them altogether, cold turkey. That's gonna be, we might as well just move into the brain hacks. Classic me, right? Not bridging it very well. Let's move it. Brain hack. Okay, so your brain hack to resensitize your brain is, number 1, stay away from porn and masturbation. Yes, I said masturbation too. You have to, because your brain is used to this high level of dopamine from porn and masturbation. And if you're masturbating still, likely you're using porn fantasy to do so. So you have to stay away from porn and masturbation. That's brain hack number 1. If you are not able to do that, get into my 90-day program so we can help you do that. If you're not able to do that, the likelihood that you resensitize your brain is slim to none. It just is. That's just the way that this works. You can't keep desensitizing your brain while simultaneously resensitizing your brain and get very far. It's imperative that you stop desensitizing the reward center in your brain. So go to drtrishleigh.com, check out the 90-day program. It's an awesome investment that you have for life if you need it. Get into that program so you can get the tools, the strategies, and the support to succeed. All right, moving on to number 2. How do you resensitize? Let's make the assumption you're no longer desensitizing. Oh, I need to tell you one more thing, is that in number 1, going back to what I said, is that look for all the sexual acting out behaviors that you've engaged in and take them off the plate. So if you're lusting after women and you're checking women out, you have to stop checking women out. There is a lesson in the 90-day program on that if you don't know how to or if you can't accomplish it by yourself. If you are going onto any site that involves sexual behaviors, that is an acting out behavior. If you are using any human being in a sexual way that does not involve intimacy, so number 1, that's paid. Number 2, it's hookup culture. You are desensitizing your brain because likely you are using that human being for high level of dopamine activities that you would not be able to pull off with an emotionally healthy partner. That's covered in the 90-day program also. So you have to identify all the ways that you are desensitizing your brain sexually. You might also be desensitizing your brain with other easy button behaviors. Those behaviors might be DoorDash. Those behaviors might be spending online or in person. We know there's high level of dopamine from spending. There's high level of dopamine from gambling. There's a high level of dopamine from gaming. I know what you're thinking. She's taking away all my fun stuff. I'm trying to help you heal erectile dysfunction. There are very high levels from gambling, spending, and gaming. Gaming is the ugly stepchild, or we'll say cousin, because we don't want to shame stepchildren. I have a beautiful stepchild, bonus child. So let's say ugly cousin. Gaming is the ugly cousin to porn because it's socially acceptable, but if you do it a lot, you are giving your brain high levels of dopamine. So you got to watch out for that. So these are unhealthy behaviors. Door dashing is, not spending any time on putting together healthy food and just having unhealthy food show up really quickly. Easy button behavior. So these are unhealthy dopamine producing behaviors that might not be sexual in nature, but they're also contributing to this desensitization. Any drugs, any way that you are regulating yourself from outside of yourself. So if you're using uppers in the morning, downers in the evening, what that might look like is excessive coffee, nicotine, we know dopamine producing. It might be alcohol in the evening or marijuana. I know what you're thinking. that I might be calling out all the stuff that you like to do. If you want to heal your erectile dysfunction, you have to at least be aware that these are part of the problem, because it gets you to solution. This is your brain hack. Number one brain hack: use your mind and body to not do those things and to regulate from within. Okay, so that's number one. Stop desensitizing. Number two, how do you resensitize? So we're going to start with your entry level, lowest level of the pyramid of possibilities. You use your mind and body. We know that exercise is a number one way to get a lot of dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, all the good neurotransmitters, decrease in cortisol. All exercise is everything your brain needs to feel good. Now, I want you to know, if you found yourself becoming compulsive or exercising too much, you might be replacing your porn habit by too much exercise, because it is highly dopamine producing. Balance here. We're going for balance. So earlier today, I love to work out. And I got to tell you, it's like 95 degrees here in beautiful North Carolina. And every day I work out in the sun. I wait for the sun to hit my back driveway. I have a basketball net out there. I play with Chewbacca, my dog. I always beat him, no opposable thumbs. Our yard is on a very steep hill, so the ball constantly runs down the hill. I constantly run after it. I've also been using my personal trampoline. Please don't picture that as part of my own recovery program. It is called rebounding. I run up and down the cul-de-sac that my home is on top of. So I'm out there cranking it, and I feel so good after working out. I also use an app, got my new boxing bag fired up and ready to go. So getting out there every day is a really healthy way to resensitize and to sensitize and to fire up those dopamine receptors in my brain. It's not a supernormal stimulus that's desensitizing my brain. It's healthily sensitizing my brain. So exercise. Exercise is different than movement. Exercise is you're working hard to do something. Movement would be a walk. And we know nature, there's a lot of dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin, the happiness trifecta in nature. Get out in nature to resensitize your brain. I did this morning. I went out early this morning in the grass, sunk my toes into the grass, and it's called grounding. And I kind of put my arms up in the air like the tree pose in yoga and just felt nature, and the sun was shining on my face. It was early, the sun was just coming up. That's amazing. Nature, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. I was just out there for a few minutes and it felt so good, just charging up my system for the day. We know healthy food. Food's very dopamine producing. Dark chocolate has been shown to give your brain 50% more dopamine. That's why I love dark chocolate. Honestly, I really haven't had any in a little while. I eat the really dark chocolate. It's like dirt. It does benefit from a little peanut butter, I will tell you, but I've been accustomed to it. I used to have 70% dark chocolate. Now I'm up to the full 90% dark chocolate. It is, I don't go full 100 because that's like literally eating dirt. 90% is delicious, but go 70% dark chocolate with sea salt. It's so good. Or if you need to go milk chocolate with some sugar, we know sugar is dopamine producing, but also you could err on the side of too much sugar and you would get that unnatural dopamine high from too much sugar. So food, prepare a meal. Take the time to not easy button it, but to use some executive function and prepare a meal. When I get done recording this podcast, I'm off to the grocery store so I can figure out a beautiful meal to make for my precious family. Today's the first day of college for Declan, who's a sophomore in engineering. My precious daughter Fiona has gone away to college. Tomorrow's her first day of class, but she's there for the first day today. It's an exciting day. The other two start school next Monday, so I'm gonna make a beautiful meal. I'm not sure what. I made chicken parm the other day. Kids love chicken parm, so I tend to make it a lot, but I'm gonna put my heart and my mind into it, and it's going to take me a little while, and we're going to eat this beautiful meal together and have a little time together, less and less kids, which is amazing. The hubs will get home from work and we'll have a nice little time together in a meal that I've made for us. That makes me feel good. I know that might not make you feel good now, but once you put a little effort into it, it can really become dopamine producing over time at smaller levels, and that at a bigger level when you get to enjoy that meal with friends or family. Try it. I know some of you might think I'm nutty about this. It's really important, and everybody has to eat. So everybody should learn how to cook a meal or two. The Hubs has been making some pretty amazing omelets. Okay, so resensitizing. Use your mind and body, exercise, move in nature, make some food. Don't hit the easy button, hit the less than easy button to resensitize your brain. You've heard me say this a million times before. Do your hobbies. Figure out what you like to do, not what your partner likes to do, not what your mom likes you to do. Do what you like to do. That's what I'm trying to get my family to do. That's what I'm trying to remind myself constantly to do. Actually, when I get done recording this, I'm going to post the picture of me and Saoirse. We went sunset paddle boarding the other night. It was amazing. We got there at 7 p.m. My phone said that the sunset was going to be at 8:01, which of course means the sun's completely down. We paddled out, we paddled around the lake, and then we kind of hung out in this area when the sun went down. And my gorgeous, precious child, who's now 12, but she's absolutely beautiful, she and I had the nicest time. Of course, she calls me Patty. I told you that. So she's like, Patty. And we had such a good time. I'm going to post the picture because it was just magical. And I know Instagram won't capture how magical it was. If you haven't seen a sunset like that, grab somebody you care about and go for your sunset paddle, whatever that looks like. Do your hobbies. The Hubs didn't come with me because he doesn't enjoy the sunset paddle. He was piddling around the house at that point. He was so excited. It was Saturday night, so we're like, do we go out? Should we try to catch up with our friends? And he's like, you know what? I'm going to do nothing. He was thrilled when he came up with the prospect. We were going to go see the Barbie movie together. We call ourselves the Three Musketeers now, me, Saoirse, and the Hubs, because we're used to it being 8 of us. So for it to really just be 3 of us to go do things now is pretty cool. But on Saturday nights, I'm like, sorry, Hubs, can't go see the Barbie movie. Saoirse and I are going out for the sunset paddle. We're going to the Barbie movie tomorrow night. I'll have to take a picture of us because we've already picked out our Barbie and Ken outfits. Then on Wednesday, we are going to the Art of Brick Expo because Seamus, who is going to be 17, has always loved Legos. I said, hey, Shay, want to go to the Art of Brick Expo with me? And he's like, sure. And then, of course, the Hubs hears it from across the room. He's like, can I go to that? And I'm like, you sure can, buddy. More the merrier. But I wanted to go with Shay because I know that that's his thing. And Saoirse's going to come with us, too. So it's going to be the Three Musketeers plus 1. Those are the things that my family loves to do. Saoirse rides horses, so I'm constantly at the barn with her because that's her passion, and I'm trying to fire her up around her passion. Fiona called me the other day so excited about, and it was a text about a major life idea. Of course, I called her back, and she had the idea for some makeup looks. She loves to do makeup. She's in school for business, entrepreneurship, to have her own makeup business. How cool, right? Aoife loves music and art. She's always involved in music and art. Connor, my bonus son, he is super cute in terms of programming. He and Declan have built computers together. They just built Saoirse a new computer. Declan spent an entire day building a computer in a way that Connor told him to, and then it didn't work. So he had to spend the entire next day unbuilding it, building it piece by piece to see which part was not working, and he figured it out with Connor's help. How cool. If I had to build and unbuild a computer to build it again, I'd lose it. But Declan's in school for engineering and computer programming. He was in his sweet spot. Having his older brother help him was even better. Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. Figure out what that looks like in your life. Use your mind and your body to resensitize the reward center in your brain. Lowest level of the pyramid of possibilities. Okay, moving on to number 2, because this podcast is getting a little long, is the second mid-level tier. Use the Muse brain sensing, brain training headband. I've talked about it here before. If you haven't heard me talk about it, please go to my website, drtrishleigh.com. Under personal neurofeedback coaching, there is a tab that says Muse brain training headband. I do not sell that headband directly, but I am an affiliate and ambassador with that company because I truly want every person in the world to get one, even though that company benefits significantly. I think it's worth it. So please go to my website, drtrishleigh.com. On that page for the Muse headband, you will get the best pricing possible. Because I am an ambassador and I tell people all the time to get this headband, Muse offers the people who work with me the best pricing. Go there. There is a Muse S. There is a Muse 2. I own both of them, and honestly, I go back and forth between them. The Muse 2 has a rigid headband. The Muse S has a stretchy headband. They're both good. It's a cost-benefit analysis, which one's better. It's a personal preference. The Muse S is a little bit more expensive. If you have significant sleep problems, it comes with what they call digital sleeping pills. If you can't sleep, that might be a good option for you. I've tried the digital sleeping pills. They're actually pretty cool. I don't remember if I talked about it here before, but if I did, I apologize. But my beautiful teenagers had a party, which was endorsed. I let them have a party, but I'm like, this is the perfect time to take the digital sleeping pills out for a spin. I put myself in noise canceling, and it was a pretty cool experience. And I was able to read on the graphs. I was able to see how my brain shifted into the sleep cycle and was able to stay there until I took the headband off. So the cool thing about the brain training headband is it offers one universal protocol to resensitize the temporal lobes, which get into the midbrain, and the frontal lobe. It's the perfect tool to rewire your brain after it's been damaged from porn and masturbation. It's been desensitized. It's a perfect piece of technology to help you resensitize your brain. And it's mid-tier because it's affordable for most people, especially if you get it with my link. It's typically around $225, $250 in American dollars. Again, I don't sell it, so if the price changed, the manufacturer does change the pricing, but you'll always get the best pricing with my link. Please, if you're contemplating getting technology to help you rewire your brain, get that headband. What it's also going to do is if you decide you want to work with me, it's going to perfectly poise you for the top tier, top level service that I offer, which is QEEG brain mapping, which is the first step. It's a different service. You can just have your brain mapped and you don't have to do coaching with me. The QEEG brain map shows you and me definitively what your brain is doing. It is a top tier, high level service. It's more of an investment, but it saves you time and energy because you're investing your money in it, like so many different things, right? If you put more money into it, it takes you less time and energy, and you get more data. That's how it goes. I bought my new boxing bag, which has punch trackers in it, and it's $40 a month to use their app, which is, it's an investment for my old boxing bag, the General. All I did was hit them. I didn't have to pay anything. But these punch trackers are going to track my punches so I can see how many punches I'm doing, and I'm able to track my workouts a little bit better. So I'm investing in the app so that I put my money in and there's less time and energy into figuring out how I'm doing, plus I have guided workouts. So the QEEG brain map gives us all the data we need to be able to ascertain what your brain is doing in terms of how desensitized it's become and how far away from optimal it is. Is it near the green zone at all? Or is it really in the pendulum brain effect? Is it really in drain brain? I can see it, and I share that with you for 1 hour. We go over it in a Zoom. I get to meet you. You share your history with me. You share how you're using your brain currently with me. I'm able to connect a lot of dots that other people are not able to connect for you. That's the beauty of that service. So If you're not inspired yet to get a brain map, get the headband. Itself, the mid-level headband, will help you achieve your goals, possibly, because it's mid-level. It will help you move towards achieving your goals of healing your brain from erectile dysfunction. And if you need more support, you're able to jump into the brain map with me. Now, after the brain map, we use the Muse headband as the hardware, but I use professional software to be able to offer you this patented, this trademark, this unique formula of neurofeedback protocols that I've put together specifically to be able to heal brains from erectile dysfunction. The reason they're trademarked and patented and all that jazz is because it took me a long time to figure out exactly what brains need to heal from erectile dysfunction. And when I figured out this unique combination using trial and error, helping many, many people, I was psyched, obviously. And I was totally stoked because what I figured out is the least path of resistance to bringing a brain online after it's been impacted by erectile dysfunction. And what it's done for me, it's ramped up my conviction level of how I'm able to help people. You know, my conviction level used to be at 7, now it's at 9.5. So if you struggle with erectile dysfunction, I'm very confident in my professional neurofeedback coaching program that I can help you bring your brain online and rewire it. And the best part of that program is it's all measurable. So we measure what your brain is doing in the QEEG brain map, and then we measure your progress over time in this professional app. You're able to see it within and across every session, and I have so much data that I'm able to see exactly what your brain needs. And I'm going to use this formula that I've figured out so that I can get you where you need to go to heal erectile dysfunction, which is an arousal dysfunction in your brain, as quickly as possible. So if you're inspired for top tier, use the link on my website, QEEG Brain Map. Use that link to schedule your brain map today. There's limited amount of slots of brain maps each month. So generally there's a wait to be able to get in to do your brain map. But if you sign up today, we should be able to do it sometime within the next month or two. So don't delay, sign up for that if you're inspired. If you don't want to go there, you don't want to go brain mapping and professional neurofeedback coaching with me, then get the Muse headband. It's going to begin to help you. And many people are able to heal their brains only using the brain training headband. So start there and feel it out. Every single session gives you a graph of how your brain has performed. And in my new erectile dysfunction program, I'm going to teach you how to read those graphs to know if your brain is healing from arousal dysfunction in the brain that creates erectile dysfunction. So get the headband. You'll be perfectly poised for the erectile dysfunction program that's coming. If you don't want to do that, or if you can't afford it yet, save your shekels so that you can get the headband and use your mind and your body, the entry-level brain hack for the day. Number 1, stop desensitizing your brain. If you can't, get into the 90-day program. If you are able to stop desensitizing your brain by figuring out all of those highly dopamine-producing activities, start resensitizing your brain using your mind and your body. Find the dopamine-producing activities in your life and start doing them. Now, here's your last brain hack for the day and how to use your mind and your body. Sex. So you know how I told you chocolate gives you 50% more? Sex with a partner that you care about with intimacy, which is not slathered in high dopamine producing activities, which I call the 3-ring circus. It's not a 3-ring circus activity. It's at lower levels where you have dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. It's a sensual experience that you are engaging with relationally with your partner produces a lot of dopamine. So you have to be careful not to go to fantasy. You have to stay present and enjoy sexual experiences with your partner. And it will resensitize your brain if you stay away from fantasy and you stay away from porn and masturbation. So that's a license to get your groove on with your partner. No partner, no problem, but you don't have to engage in sexual experiences, obviously, to resensitize your brain. You do have to get on purpose in your work, in your relationships, and in your hobbies, because that is teaching your brain and conditioning it to go back into your life, to crush that dopamine deficit and start getting dopamine flowing in your world. And at the same time, you're not going back into the screen. That will resensitize your brain. But if you have your partner, I encourage you, go there instead of going back into the screen. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. A long one today. Thanks for staying with me today, but this is an important one and I'm really excited about moving into September so I can help you crush erectile dysfunction, get back to getting your groove on with your partner, and to heal this silent tsunami that's been created by porn and masturbation, and move it into a positive ripple effect of change where together, me and you, we can heal the world one brain at a time. I believe that. That is why I'm here. Okay, so until next time, control your brain or it'll control you.